Okay, Gianni, I don't think you heard that. So right now, the class evidently needed to use the restroom and wash their hands after their afternoon break. So it's taken a little bit longer than what anticipated. So that's why we haven't quite started yet. So we're right there, almost ready. Okay, I'm just going to put you on an interruption right now, and then I'll pull you back off when and start the class when we're ready. Okay, we'll be back. Actually, you probably didn't even hear me because I didn't have the mic. Really. So much to do. Testing. Okay, we're good. What?
Open the door. Actually, I'm not lying. I can't walk. Bring my knee.
Okay.
I didn't carry him.
Okay, Jenny, we're just about ready to start here, so we're just waiting for the guys, girls and guys, to get back from the restroom.
Can I get a drink?
Okay.
What? The fountain?
No.
Oh, I have my water.
You have a water bottle, don't you?
No.
What?
Do you think our teacher's like
For your age, yeah.
Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I'm 75. Are you mad?
I think you'll be okay until we get done. Huh?
Are you mad?
I'm frustrated right now because you guys are supposed to do that our recess time, not during class.
Our teacher didn't send us. She always sends stuff.
I realize that.
Dad brings ice cream.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, we just need to figure out a schedule. If we need to do this right at the beginning of class, then we'll do it. Otherwise, you'll wait next time. Okay.
Did you say check 1, check 2?
Yes, it did. You weren't here.
I said, can you say check 1,
Nope.
check 2?
Nope.
Check 1.
So we're just waiting for the girls. Okay. Okay. Okay, we were ready for lesson 3 now. If you, class, Gianni, if you have finished that work, just make sure you get it to me by next Friday, okay? The homework. Those of you that are in class here, I have a tray, which is the bottom tray, okay, for my subject for science. So when you are finished with an assignment, you may put it in that tray, the bottom one, okay, of the black stack, okay, and that way I'll collect it that way, okay. So whatever assignment is given to you, and you finish it early, or when you finish it ready to turn in the next day, you just put it in that bottom tray, okay? The one that says science on it. Okay? That's how we'll turn our homework in. Okay, open your books to page 8. Investigate a goldenrod jungle. Yes, sir?
We have homework today?
Not today, I don't think. Maybe just to read pages. Well, actually, you do.
You?
Yep, you will. But right now, just, okay, hold off on the questions of the homework. Okay, you'll see it when we come to it. Okay, page 8. Here we go. It says 1,000 pots of gold. Which would be easier to find? 1,000 pots of gold all together in one place, or 1,000 pots of gold scattered all over the countryside? Scattered all over the countryside? Why? Okay.
So people don't fight over it?
That would make it easier to find?
No, oh. Oh, I would rather have it in,
Shane?
in a pot under the rainbow.
Is that part of the question?
No. What was the question?
The question is, which would be easier to find?
Oh.
A pot of gold, or pots of gold that are all together, or pots of gold that are scattered all over the world? Okay, obviously, we're just going to move on. Obviously, it's going to be pots of gold that are together. Okay? Why? Because you can see them. Pots of gold, like a pot under the rainbow, you can't see it because you're not right there, and it's just one little thing. Okay? Of course, it would be easier to find the gold if it were all together in one place. The plant that holds thousands of pots of gold is what's called the goldenrod plant. Each flower that you see on a goldenrod plant is really many flowers in one. Okay? Now, goldenrods are sure signs that summer is ending and fall is on its way. So if you see these out there, you know what's happening or going to happen. There are over 100 different kinds of kinds in North America, and they grow just about everywhere. From the mountainside to the seaside, along dry roads, in moist woods, and in vacation city lots. Or vacant city lots. They are the state flower of Kentucky and Nebraska. Because of its visibility, you probably already know just where to go to find it. Goldenrod plants are in bloom right now. If so, it would be a fascinating place for you to begin your investigation of how things fit together in God's world. If you get hay fever, you may think it may be caused by the goldenrod, but this is probably not true. As you investigate, try to answer, these questions. Okay, now we finished that section, so we're going to fill in our notes. Your notes, we're still on page 1 of your notes, down at the bottom, lesson 3. Okay. Investigating a goldenrod jungle. Okay, 1,000 golden pots of gold. Here's what a goldenrod looks like. Okay. So, your first number 1, what is a plant that holds thousands of pots of gold, many flowers? That's the goldenrod. So you fill in the first blank. Okay, number 1, goldenrod. But that's what it looks like. Now see, it's not just one flower, it's many flowers on one stem. Okay, it looks like this as a close-up. all these little individual flowers are all making one flower, basically, okay, or one thought as a flower. So the plant that holds thousands of pots of gold. Now, why did they say 1,000 pots of gold? Because look at all the little flowers that are here. There's like thousands of them, okay, especially on something like this. There's thousands of them there. Thus, they call it the pot of gold. And again, they're signs that summer is ending and fall is beginning, or fall's on its way. Okay, so now you should have answered numbers 1 and 2 under that first category. Okay? Okay, let's continue reading. A miniature jungle. Why did God make goldenrods so bright and visible? Well, probably it was partly so we could see and enjoy their beauty. Okay? Those flowers, the goldenrod flowers, are a beautiful flower. Okay? And so to enjoy them, okay, God put it there for that one reason. Well, there's more important reason for the plant, however. Okay? Start highlighting now all the way to pollination. It says, like many flowering plants, goldenrods depend mostly on insects to move life-giving pollen from the flower's male parts, the stamens, to the female parts, the pistils, so the undeveloped seeds at the base of the pistil can grow into new plants. Keep highlighting. The transfer of pollen from male parts to female parts is called pollination. Okay? Now, I'm just going to continue reading and then we'll come back to the section and fill in our blanks. After the flower is pollinated, tiny sperm cells in the pollen fertilize or unite with the undeveloped seed at the base of the female parts. Now the seeds will be able to grow into new plants, each after its own kind. And that's how God has created life, to produce after its kind. Okay? God didn't create a monkey or a lion. Let's just take the lion, because we always use monkeys. God didn't create the lion to reproduce and have a hippopotamus. And right now in your mind you're saying, that's just ridiculous. Well, yeah, it is. But that's the way people think. That's the way the evolutionists think, is that one can produce another. But creationists, God's point of view is that life reproduces after its kind. Humans reproduce humans. They don't reproduce animals. Animals reproduce animals, but of the same kind. Okay? And so that's what we got to keep in mind, that it's after its kind. That's part of the investigation of God's world. Okay? Now, moving on to page 10, I think, right? Yeah, because, well, I'll tell you what, look at page 9. You got the picture of a goldenrod there. Okay? In that picture, you have various numbers, 1 through 12. Okay? Let's see, in your book, do you have the list? Yeah, you do. Okay. Number 1 up there. Compare the list and the names to the numbers. Number 1 is your American hover fly. Okay? A fly that hovers in one spot like a bumblebee does, or a hummingbird. Okay? Number 2, right across the stem, is your honeybee. Going down, number 3, or the big butterfly out there, is what we call the viceroy butterfly. And we're going to be talking about the viceroy butterfly. But does anybody know what it looks like right now? Does anybody right now know what it looks like? Yes, sir. Well, it looks like a butterfly, but what kind? What special kind?
It's orange.
Gavin? Well, it has a pattern, yeah. It looks just like a monarch butterfly, but there's a distinction. There's a difference between us. We're going to find that out here in a little bit. Number 4, going back to the left, you have the bee killer. You see it kind of hiding in there?
That thing's scary.
Okay, going down the next stem, number 5, the ambush bug. Okay, you can barely see it in there. It likes to hide in the flower, and then when an insect of some kind flies by or lands on it, it comes out and grabs it. Number 6, going down the next one, you have the goldenrod spider. Okay, or right there in the middle, right on the main stem. Number 7, going on the right side, you have the yellow jacket. It's like a hornet, like a wasp. Number 8, going back to the left, you have the goldenrod soldier beetle. Yes, sir.
Is the spider like bigger in real life?
Probably a little bit, not much though, I don't think. Okay, number 9, going back to the right, you have the drone fly. That's the black one right there, right above the list, or to the left, upper left of the list. Number 10, right above the list, you have the bumblebee. Number 11 on the left side, you have the praying mantis. Okay, that green stem looking thing, insect. And then number 12 at the very bottom, right on the main stem at the very bottom, you have what's called the locust borer. Okay, and we'll be talking about that one. We'll be talking about each one of these a little bit here in just a second. Yes, Gavin? Why are they different? One, God made them that way, so you can tell which is which. Okay. One produces the honey. One carries the pollen more, okay, than the others, and so there's little distinctions of why. Okay. Good question. Okay, page 10. Turn around. Turn around. Okay, pollen. You've all heard about pollen. Well, pollen is the yellow dust that flowers used in producing seeds. The nectar is the sweet liquid that flowers make in order to attract the insects. The masses of bright color and the pollen and sweet nectar produced by the flowers attracts hundreds of insects to the goldenrod plant, making the goldenrod a miniature jungle. Highlight everything that I've read so far, okay, on page 10. Cameron, question?
Is this thing alive?
It may be right now. Oh yes, it is, because it's gathering pollen. It's a bee gathering pollen. We'll be talking about that here in a minute, but good thought. Good question. Yes, sir. Tony? Everything in that from pollen to jungle. Okay, on that first paragraph. Okay. Okay, let's move on. In fact, the goldenrod, the plant that you see on the screen right now, is probably the chief source of pollen and nectar for insects in the fall. Obviously, now look at, because of all the flowers, individual flowers. If there's thousands of them on there, then 1,000 individual insects could get the pollen from those flowers. Okay, so that's why it's that statement. With their huge compound eyes, insects spy the flowers, and with their antennae or feelers, follow along, they smell the nectar. Okay, so that's why the first question of the chapter or this lesson is because if there's a plant there, there's a plant here, there's a plant there, it's a little harder for the insects to see and where to go. But if all those pots, those flowers came to one location, it makes it a whole lot easier for the insects to fly around and see where they want to land, and especially on their important flower to get the nectar. Okay? Now, because goldenrods is so rich in pollen and nectar, a good way to begin an investigation of insects in actions is to visit a goldenrod plant on a sunny day and then just watch very quietly. Whenever you are investigating insects and bugs and butterflies and whatever, you can't just run up there and oh, this is really neat, man. It's really. You got to be quiet. You got to be calm. You got to just sit and use one of your senses, one of your tools. Eyes, well, use them all. Eyes, ears, all your senses, okay, to observe that flower. Okay? Yes, sir.
I don't have a magnifying glass.
You don't have a magnifying glass?
No.
Okay. Well, then maybe your parents can get you one sometime. But if you do, if you don't, that's fine. Okay. Let's go on to the second section. A miniature jungle. Just what we've read. So why is the goldenrod so bright and beautiful and visible? Okay. This is a prairie, or not a prairie, but this is a meadow of goldenrod plants. Okay. Now see how bright and yellow it looks? So if an insect is flying around over here to the right of this picture, and it's buzzing around and it sees those flowers, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to it's attracting the insects to them because it sees this big yellow spot on the ground. Okay? So, why is it so bright and visible? Get this written down in your notes. To make sure that the insects find the plant to pollinate it.
It's already in there.
Okay? What?
It's already written.
Is that one written? Okay. Some of the long ones I left on, so I just can't remember which one because all of mine are on there. Okay? But that's why. So it makes it easier for the plants or the insects to pollinate. Head off. To pollinate the flowers. Okay? Okay, number 2. What is the transfer of pollen from male parts to the female parts of the plants called? Pollination. Okay? So here on the picture, you've got the plant. The pollen granules are these little yellow things, okay, on the top of the pistils. The pollen gets taken off the pistils, gets transferred by the insect, okay, onto the stigma of another plant. Okay? So it's going from the male part of the plant to the female part of another plant. And that's how the plants pollinate each other, by this process. Okay? So insects are one of the key elements to pollinating plants so that the plant seed can grow and grow rich, okay, and better. Okay? Number 3. What is the yellow dust that pollen or that flowers use in producing seeds? It's that pollen. Okay? So on these male parts of the flower, you've got all these yellow spots. That's the pollen. Okay? Here, all these yellows that you see in here is the pollen. This is a bee that is just covered with pollen. So when he goes from one plant to another plant, he gets all that pollen shook off and it gets into the female part of the plant, and then the seed gets enriched, gets its nourishment, and the seed itself will grow. Okay? Number 4. What is the sweet liquid that the flowers make in order to attract insects? That's what's called the nectar. Okay? So you got this hummingbird, it's getting the nectar out of that flower. Not just insects do it. Okay? Sometimes just other animals can do it also. But here's a picture of the liquid nectar, that a close-up shot of the inside of a flower, okay? And it's just that liquid. The liquid that's this hummingbird is going in with his long beak and sucking out that liquid, that nectar in from that flower. Going to take it to another flower, okay, to pollinate it. Okay, that's that section. Let's go on to the honeybees. One of the first insects you'll spot will no doubt be the busy golden colored bumblebee. Let's see what I got. I didn't put out there. The honeybee. She will be so occupied collecting food for winter storage that she will pay no attention to you. Okay? But yet we're always scared. Why are we scared? Because we're afraid of getting stung. Okay? But if you're up by a plant and there are honeybees all over this plant, you can watch them. You can come really close to them and watch them, because they're not interested in you. They're interested in getting all that nectar, the pollen, etc. from that plant, so that they can take it and pollinate something else. Now, what are you going to have to do to get their attention? You're going to have to bother them. Okay? Maybe you're going to try to flick them away or something. And what's going to happen? They're going to get upset because they've got interrupted. Their process of pollinating got interrupted, and they got mad. And so where are they going to take their vengeance out? On you. That's how people get stung. That's how people, that's why people don't like bees, is because they do get stung. Okay? And, but it's not the bees' fault. It's our fault. Okay? Now, notice the bee's covering of short, fine hairs. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Watch her collect the pollen with her front legs, pass into the middle legs, and then back to the pollen baskets on her hind legs. We'll cover all this here in a minute with pictures, but let's just read this so we can get through. Can you see the comb? Now, actually, there's a picture on page 10, the top picture there. That bee is getting covered up with pollen. And bees have like little pockets on the sides of them that they kind of stick all the pollen inside of. And then they cover it, and then somehow they take the pollen out and put it into the pistil of the other plant. You might also see a hummingbird sipping sweet nectar from the flower with her short tongue. She gathers just one sip at a time, carries it home to her special honey stomach. Why one at a time? Well, because she doesn't have that much storage. It takes that many times to take the nectar out. Other bees take the nectar and turn it into honey. It takes 4 bee loads of nectar to make 1 drop of honey. 4 bee loads, okay, to make 1 little drop of honey. Okay? Now, you have a question, Tristan?
How many times would a bee have to load to make a whole jar of it?
Yeah. Well, depends upon how big the jar is. Depends upon how many drops you're going to need to have. It's hard to say. But obviously, you can tell that it's going to take quite a bit. Okay? Gavin? What is nectar? It's that liquid part that the bees, the insects, birds, or whatever are sucking out of the plant. Well, they are drinking it, but they're releasing it back into another plant. Okay? I think you answered your own question. Okay. Okay. Now, moving on. Top second column. Now you know why the bee is so busy. The supply of pollen and nectar the bees are now storing has to last them throughout the winter and into the spring. So they need to collect enough to keep them for their survival. Okay? Sometimes during the fall, the male bees or the drones, okay, have no stinger and they do no work. Okay? They mate with the queen bees. Then the drones die. So they die after mating with the queen. The queen, or the female bees that mate and lay eggs, and workers, female bees that do not mate and lay eggs, live on through the winter. Honeybees stay awake in their hives during the winter to keep them close together and moving their wings for warmth. Okay, highlight everything in that section that I've read so far. From that paragraph, sometimes during the fall, all the way to the last word I read was warmth. Okay? Okay? Got just a couple minutes here. Okay, while you're highlighting, I'm just going to finish reading. Each time each hive has one queen bee and many workers. All through the winter, the queen and the workers live on the pollen and nectar gathered in the fall from the goldenrod and other plants. Okay? Now, on page 2 of your notes, let's fill in the questions for honeybee. Okay? See what you got. Number 1. What does a honeybee use to collect their pollen? The pollen baskets. Okay? So the pollen baskets would be right back in here area, all over in their legs, so that they can stuff them and take them to wherever they need to go. Pollen baskets. What are the male bees called? Drones. Okay? Male bees do not have stingers, and they do not work. They're just basically there for mating with the queens. Number 3, why are the female bees, or what are the female bees that mate with the drones and then lay eggs called? They're called queens. Okay? Need me to go back a little bit? Okay. Pollen baskets, number 1. Okay. Number 2 was drones. Okay. Number 3 are queens. Number 4, what happens to the male bees, the drones, after they mate with the queen? They die. And then number 5, okay, ready for 5? What are the female bees that do not mate and lay eggs called? They're called the workers. Okay, I had the picture a little high on that, so sorry about that. But you got the workers. So here's a picture. You got the queen bee, which is always the biggest bee in the hive. Okay, then you got the drones, which are the male ones. They're bigger or a little bit smaller than the queen, but yet, so they're in the middle sized. And then the workers are the small ones doing all the work for the hive. Yes, sir.
So does that mean the females are the only ones that sting?
Yes. Yep. Okay, and then number 6. How do honeybees survive the winter? And I think I left this on your notes. They stay close together in their hive. They move their wings to stay warm, like you do when you are out in the cold, and you don't get too much cold here, but when you're out in the cold, you guys gotta stay together and you're constantly moving around just to stay warm. Well, the bees are doing the same thing. They're flapping their wings together to stay warm. Okay? Your homework tonight. Comprehension check 1.3. That should be your next sheet on the back side of your notes. Okay? Now, I don't see any homework sheets yet turned in today. Okay? So, I'm going to give you another chance. 1.1 and 1.2 should be turned in. Okay? So if you have them, go ahead and turn them in. And you can turn them in the first part of the day. That's fine. Whenever you're done, turn them in. Gianni, that's going to conclude our class for today. I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you, or you'll see us on video on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yes.
Caroline, can I use my phone to text my dad? Because he told me he doesn't know if I'm going to read the book.